Hello, and welcome back to the Becoming Ageless podcast, where we have conversations about whole health for naturally increasing health span and decreasing biological age. I'm your host, Robynn Fredericks, holistic health practitioner, and I believe in living agelessly. My guest today is the incomparable Ann Gentry. She is a visionary leader and pioneer in the plant-based food movement, creating and operating Real Food Daily, which is LA's premier organic vegan restaurant, for 25 years, as well as an additional 4 locations. She's the author of Vegan Family Meals, Real Food for Everyone, and the Real Food Daily Cookbook. She's been published in numerous national and international publications, as well as serving as the executive chef for Vegetarian Times magazine. And she penned a food column in the UK's parenting magazine called Junior. And we're not done, and hosted 52 episodes of her own cooking show called Naturally Delicious with Ann Gentry, airing on the Dish Network. She's been featured on the Today Show, The Talk, Discovery Channel, the Food Network, as well as being featured on the Today on local news and entertainment shows. This list could go on, but you know what? I want to start digging into our conversation because this woman is an absolute inspiration. With all of what she has happening, she has decided to reinvent herself during midlife and has returned to one of her first passions, which is working as an actress and a model. Ann, welcome to this show. And can I just say, oh my goodness, I adore how unstoppable you are.
Well, thank you. I feel blessed.
Absolutely. I'm completely inspired for you or by you. And as you know, we always start out the show with one major question, and that is, what steps are you taking to live an ageless life and increase your own health span?
Well, many steps. The journey is long and wide. I'll tell you, I'm going to start with what I thought I would end with.
Okay.
Maybe it'll set the tone. I wanted to cultivate a sacred life. And what I mean by a sacred life was a life where I really could be with myself and be okay and know my self-worth and know that I was filled with love and really being able to share that freely with the world. That doesn't come easy. We all come into this lifetime. We have our things that we have to work out and work through. And if we're conscious and get on that path, and we can do that. So finally, I think it took leaving my restaurants, having my children grow up, all of a sudden to have time that was mine to really cultivate that sacred life. And what that means to me is sitting quietly in a meditative environment at least once a day. And so for the past couple of years, I have been doing that every morning, and that has just opened myself to myself and opened me to be more available to myself and to others. And there's nothing like it. And so I just want to say that, I call it quiet time because a lot of people, that means a lot for different things for different people.
Yeah.
But something about meditating, and of course people say to me, oh, I can never quiet my mind, never. And I used to say that, 90 miles a minute. How will I ever turn it off? And you can never turn it off.
You can't.
Because it's who we are as humans.
And
we'll always seep back in, but you can learn to quiet it and not have it run you, at least for the 20 minutes, 40 minutes that you sit quietly.
Yeah.
And every day is different. Some days are wilder than others. Some days are super quiet and serene. But I want to shout from the rooftops, because I think that's where it starts, especially with women, is who are we to ourselves?
Yeah.
Do we really love ourselves? And then I've learned something by Shauna Shapiro, Dr. Shauna Shapiro. She has a beautiful little book called Good Morning, I Love You.
Aww.
And she takes you through this whole process. And, in the beginning, I couldn't say that. I couldn't say that and really mean it. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror and say it. So anyway, it's a process. It'll be different for all of you, but it's sort of in steps. Like finally you can say good morning.
Yeah.
Finally, you can say, I love you without looking. And
Yeah.
finally put it all together.
Yeah.
And the power of that, to start your day that way after meditation or before sometimes.
I
Wow. And that's the gift we owe ourselves, because especially here, like, look, I'm in my 60s. It's like, I'm a Capricorn. It takes me a long time to get up to the top of the mountain. And I'm up here with a great view. And I'm also realizing, yeah, the view is like I've lived the majority of my life is behind me.
right.
And I can never go back and redo it. So it's all about letting go of all that baggage we keep trucking up the mountain with. And
Absolutely.
being free of it and realizing we have such little time here.
Yeah.
And it's so precious and beautiful. And why not feel really good about yourself
Oh my
first,
gosh.
so that you can really let your gifts shine?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
That's
is where I thought I would end, but I think it's best to start there.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And, just jumping in really quick to something that you said about quieting the mind and can we really quiet it, and people thinking, oh my gosh, I can never do that. I heard it explained really well once, and I don't remember who said it. It was years ago, but they said, imagine being on a raft in the ocean with all of these waves. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to relax and let your boat just kind of go over them, and you enjoy it. So it's like you're learning just to kind of ride the waves instead of fighting them. Because too oftentimes when we're trying to do that meditation or that mindfulness or stillness, and those thoughts pop in, the first thing that we do is like, oh no, stop thinking. And we start fighting those thoughts instead of just like, okay, deal with that later. So I love that. And I love that you start every morning like that, and that's how you see yourself as living agelessly, because we do have so much study, so much research talking about how meditation will actually help to lengthen telomeres. So, I mean, that is huge.
Yes.
Getting that stress level down is huge. Before we get into all of that, I have to tap into the cooking, into the food segment a little bit. And I have a fun fact that Ann used to be the head chef or the private chef for Danny DeVito way back when, before the restaurants.
Yes.
And so is that how you got into wanting to open restaurants and going from there?
I guess, that was just, one stop along the way. I grew up on a Southern diet. I grew up on an American diet, Southern style. I went to New York City to pursue acting. I got into becoming a vegetarian and then the study of macrobiotics. I came to Los Angeles, a pilot season, to, get into the world of TV. And I always say Danny DeVito was one of my biggest acting jobs, because I told him, I lied to get the job. I said, I've been a caterer in New York, and because I knew I could cook for one person.
Right.
But definitely that planted a seed that I did have this gift with in the world of color, the culinary world. So one thing led to another over a period of the first 5 years that I was into LA. And I always say I jumped out of one hotbed, meaning, the world of theater and acting, into the restaurant world. And they're both high risk.
Definitely.
High risk. And, I just thought I was going to open a little restaurant in Santa Monica. I grew it over 25 years to several locations, an outpost out at LAX. After 25 years, 2 kids, juggling motherhood, career, writing the cookbooks, doing the cooking show, I was a mess. I was just stressed. I was not meditating. I always wanted to. And I look back now and I think, if I would have had this piece in my life working for me, I do know that I would have handled a lot of things differently.
Right.
Start your day with that. peace that you find in yourself, and
Yeah.
to then use the time to also set your day up with your intentions. And but coulda, shoulda, woulda, you can't go back and do it. I'm grateful that I'm here with it now. And I ran it the way I ran it. And it was
Yeah.
wild and crazy, and it was an incredible time.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Your cookbooks, you have several cookbooks. And I have one here with me, and I have been digging into this, and I am absolutely loving it. And the whole thing with food, and that food helping to feed us and to nurture us. You studied macrobiotics. How do you feel about your relationship with food and the importance of that in your life?
I think it's really the most important one, because we do it every day, several times a day.
Right.
And we have so much choice. So what I will share today is that we need different things at different times in our life. When I was in my 20s and 30s, I was pretty much a hardcore vegan. It worked for me then. Stress, having children in my mid 40s, lack of sleep, of course, goes with the stress. That whole life, and leading up to menopause, pre-menopause, perimenopausal. I saw that I needed something else. It wasn't working for me. And that's really what I'd like to share today, because I know we get all caught in, what group are you in, and what's your identity. And the vegan world is a powerful world, and it works for many people, maybe for their whole lifetime.
Right.
For many people at certain times in their lifetime. And that would go the same for everything out there, the keto, the paleo, macrobiotics, Ayurvedic, all of it.
Right.
And it's about exploring, because we are constantly changing. Our blood is changing, and our health is changing. And so we need different things at different times in our life. So
Absolutely.
I am, 90% of what I eat is plant-based, but I have brought in high quality, fats through, fish, and a little bit of poultry here and there, because finally I wanted to enjoy Thanksgiving. And it was so freeing to finally let go of what becomes very rigid when you get in the dogma of your, dietary beliefs. And again, life is just too short.
Yeah.
You want to enjoy it all. So, but then how do you use food medicinally?
Right.
And so I would say for women 40 and beyond, you want to start to think about eating for brain health. And this is a big world out here now. The brain and how we work as humans has become, that's on the radar now.
Right.
I started the whole, eating well. Nobody was talking about your brain. It was all about your heart, and then we got down to the gut, and now we're up to the brain, and the gut and the brain are really connected,
They are.
And so for women especially, we just can't keep eating the way we did as cheerleaders, in high school, as cheerleaders, or sorority girls in college, or wild girls in your 20s,
Right.
you're finally out in the world on your own, partying hard. Those days are behind us, ladies. We need to really now start to eat for menopause. Happens in our brain, and it happens in our gut. And again, that connection. And we need to be eating a completely different diet. And a brain health diet is primarily whole grains and whole carbohydrates through the forms of vegetables and fruits and grains. And then the ability to really have some real quality protein that's going to serve your brain, which is where the oily fishes come in, the salmon, sardines. Again, I don't want to get so in the minutia of the food, and the dark leafy greens. We women love our salads, and salads have a place, but there is nothing like cooked dark leafy greens. Now, of course, kale has, taken over the world of salads, and that's a great place to get it. But, research has shown in women that were aging in their 80s and beginning to get a little dementia, if they were eating dark leafy greens 3 to 4 times a day, they saw a difference in their brains, and they did for the women that were not. So, the superfoods that we talk a lot about, that are just, many of those superfoods are foods if you're eating vegetables, you've already been eating. They don't have to be exotic from South America to do the job. And we don't have to get fixated with, berries or goji berries or, whatever it is that we think is going to be the magic bullet, because no one food is ever going to do it.
Right. I agree.
How are you really putting the whole thing together?
Right.
And at this part in our lives, I think we have the time to really prepare our own food. There's no better cook. There's no better healer than your own self. Let food be thy medicine.
Right.
So you got to know how to prepare it.
Absolutely.
And it's simple. These foods and the recipes in my book, they're relatively simple. And that's what you want to do when you're at home. When you eat out, then you can get a little, explore more and have, richer, saltier, fiery, flavors. But at home, you want to just keep the basics going.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, you and I have talked before, and I think I mentioned to you my own special term that I use, that I'm a Robynn. And I have all of my clients that put their name. So you would be an Ann. I'm with you. There is, today I might be vegan, tomorrow I might be paleo. It's really depending on what my body is going through and what I need. So as you have, moved through midlife, you're in your 60s now, you've moved through menopause. Have you found any tips that you can offer to help somebody figure out what it is maybe that my body is asking for today? Well, how do I know what kind of foods to be eating?
Oh, that's a great question, because, it depends on how you are eating. If one is still eating, sort of a American diet of processed foods, lots of sugar, and I'm not against sugar. I think sugar has its place in a dessert. But unfortunately, if you were out there grabbing food, sugar is now in everything. It drives me crazy. It's in corn chips. So how are you eating today? If you're eating poorly, it's hard to really know what you need, because you're driven by all those ups and downs of the foods that you're eating. Mm-hmm. And you've lost your palate, because salt and sugar really desensitizes the tongue. And so, for instance, if you just had like some roasted carrots, you would think they were bland. If you were drinking Cokes and Pepsis and Sprites and eating junky foods, you could never taste the natural sweetness. Right. That so many vegetables have, especially the root vegetables. Yeah. So, so you need guidance. You need someone to help who's more knowledgeable, that can take you into what is really the right way for you to eat. Because of course, women want to lose weight. They want to lose the weight that they gained from menopause. They want to, they want to exercise. It's all these things that we want to do, and you get stuck and you don't do any of them because of how it is that really that food's controlling you. Yeah. It kind of just takes over, and it messes with your brain. It messes with your digestion and your elimination, your skin and everything. I know I'm painting a horrible picture, but that's where a lot of the people in our country really are. And how do you dig out of that? And that's why they get excited about one magic bullet food. Yeah. Wouldn't it be easy? I mean, if we could really just have one magic bullet food, it would make life so much easier. Boring, but easier. But I mean, look, so to give some tips, I think you got to make sure you're hydrated. That's a simple thing. Are you drinking enough water? Not colas, not, kombuchas, all of those are liquid, and of course, different degrees of liquid, but just pure, clean water, so that you're staying hydrated. And that causes, when you get dehydrated, headaches, fatigue, depression, you're feeling horrible about yourself. Are you eating fruits and vegetables? I know vegetarians that don't even like vegetables. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you want those foods in your diet, and quality fruits, seasonal fruits. It's great to go by the seasons when you think about what you want to eat. That's something that we really lost in the modern world that we live in, because we live in a place where we can get it 365 days of the year, anything we want, but seasonal eating has a real power to it.
Right.
And are you getting enough protein? As women, as we age, we are losing, our body strength, where our muscles are changing, and we need to be exercising and moving and eating foods at the right times of the day that will help repair and replenish our bodies.
Right. Right.
And I'm looking
Absolutely.
at some
I
notes
agree.
here. Nuts, seeds, good quality fats. We spent years, decades thinking that fats were bad for us. And think about all that. We got rid of the fat in all the food, and then America just got fatter. So what was that about? Well, all the sugar that took the place of the fat. So good quality fats, which you can get in the fish, nuts and seeds, yogurts, whether they're dairy or non-dairy. The thing I like to say about yogurt, though, is you got to really read that label and stay away from it, because most of it is just filled with high sugar.
Absolutely.
And so you really want an unsweetened yogurt, an unsweetened non-dairy milk, because again, that's a place where all the sugar goes. And fats are important. And I think fats are important in the early part of the day, because they give you brain power and they make you feel satiated. Because I think of all the years I just ate a muffin, and then, you're just like foraging, an hour or so later, and then you're choosing the wrong foods and you're overeating because you're not satisfied.
Yeah.
That's one thing I did see after all those years of grain and vegetable eating, just that, and getting my proteins from plants or soy or beans and legumes, was that going back to fish it's satiating.
Right.
I feel full on very little, and I don't have the cravings that when you are eating a grain-based diet, because most of what we eat when we're eating even good quality carbohydrates is turning into glucose in our body. And then you want a sweet, you've got that whole sweet, I'm doing a circle because it is like a big mess in there where you want more sweets.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And I will add something, because and I mentioned the glucose thing, and I know people, it's like, what does that mean? And, many people do know, our bodies, after we eat, whether it's a good meal or a bad meal, but we prefer a good meal, our bodies break down our food and what food it can't into glucose, and that gets stored in our body, and it gets stored as fat. But one way to counter that is, after you eat, is to get up and move.
Yeah.
Now, I don't mean you have to go out and do a major, workout. How about just a little 20-minute walk?
Yeah.
And I really have been doing that in my life for the past 5-6 years, and it makes all the difference in the world. One, it helps with digestion,
Right.
especially if you've overeaten. And two, it helps you, because what do we do if we don't walk? We're sitting, we go back to our computers, or we sit down and read, or we sit down and have a conversation. And all of those are great things to do, but maybe not after the 20 minutes after you eat.
Right.
Get up, get moving. And I always say to people about moving, meaning walking, is you know how to do it. You learned how to do it when you were about 1 year of age. And nobody really taught you. You figured it out on your own.
Yeah.
Right? And
it's free.
And it's free, and it's accessible, and you can do it anywhere. And I get it. People are, there's snowstorms going on right now as we speak here at the end of February, but you do it in your house. Just walk in place.
Yeah.
If you're not fortunate enough to have a treadmill or to have a trampoline that you could jump on, or to get on a Stairmaster or, elliptical, but to move and burn that fuel that you just digested, so that it doesn't start to sit in your organs and in your body and turn to fat. And then keep building and building, and you go, well, what happened?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's definitely important. You have some other really great tips and actions that we were talking a little bit about that I think are fantastic tips for helping people to move into a longer health span, a greater mindfulness, including pursuing passions. And you're doing a lot of that. And I mean, I just think you are such a prime example. I have followed you on social media for a long time. I see your hiking explorations. And will you share just a little bit about some of those action steps?
Well, I'll tell you about the hiking. When I went last summer, my husband took me out 5 nights, 40 miles. He didn't think I was going to be able to do it. And because it was tough. I'm not going to deny it was. And you have to prep and get ready for it. So as I said, I've been walking for years now. So walking will get you prepared for a lot of things. But the beauty is most of the people that we saw out there on the trail were people in their 60s and 70s.
Oh, wow.
50s, 60s, and 70s.
Yeah.
And the people in their 70s, jokingly would say like, well, this may be my last year I'm doing this. I don't know. And they had been doing it for years.
Yeah.
And a couple of people were solo. People were couples. People were with their grown adult children. And it was so inspiring to realize, wow, there is this movement of people that really want to live however long they live in the best health possible. And the beauty of walking is, AARP has come out and said it's 7,000 steps a day. I do. And so, and I thought, I love that 7,000 steps, because you think, well, how much is that?
I know, right?
How many times around the block, or how many miles is that? And the reality is it's really up to each person, because it depends on, are you a fast walker, slow walker? It doesn't matter. You can walk really slow, but walk those 7,000 steps, and you don't have to do it all at one time. You could split that up in the course of the day. And that if we did that every day, we most likely would be living a longer life in very good health. Just walking.
Yeah, movement is key. I mean, they say that sitting is worse than smoking now, and it's contributes to more disease than we could even begin to imagine. And I think studies are going to continue to come out on that, with just how dangerous sitting is. That as we're both sitting here, but we both get up and move a lot.
Yes, they talk about it as, sitting all day long is the new smoking, the information that's coming out about it. And we ourselves are experiencing it. Look, I get stuck sitting here in front of this computer for hours. And afterwards, my back feels terrible, my legs. And what do people do often when they sit all day long? Is they're drinking sugary beverages. And they're noshing. You're unconscious when you're noshing. You're not even really, and it's not filling you up. You're doing it. So we need to be moving as much as we can. And some people say to me, well, I'm older now. And yes, people have had challenges, physical challenges, mental challenges, health challenges, but you can get past that. Again, you don't have to become a marathon runner, though people do that in their 60s.
They do.
But again, how to walk. And as you said, Robynn, it's free. It's accessible. We can do it everywhere. So there is really no excuse.
Right.
And I would encourage people, if you don't want to do it by yourself, maybe you can do it with your dog. You don't have a dog, then get a friend. It's nice to have a buddy. And sometimes the buddy is just, I'm listening to a podcast. Or I get on the phone and I call someone and I have a, great chatty conversation. And the next thing you know, wow, I walked an hour and I didn't even notice it.
It goes by fast. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What other tips and action points do you have for people? Because I mean, you have so much to share, girlfriend.
Well, we know sleep is a big deal, right? And we also know that the old adage of, you'll sleep when you die is that nobody's buying into that anymore. There's all
Thank
these
God.
books out there now about the power of sleep.
Right.
And I think that's come out of this fast-paced world that we've been in, and this world of caffeine. So it's hard to sleep when you're jittery on caffeine, because many people overdo caffeine. And caffeine has its place, but not in overdoing it. And people like to drink late at night or at night. And I know if I just have one glass of wine, I wake up on like clockwork at about 3 a.m.
Yeah.
Because that wine, now it's 5-6 liters, it's gotten, it's hitting my liver. And it's like I wake up and I don't feel so good.
Yeah.
But again, a little glass of wine here and there. I mean, again, we want to live just things in moderation. And then you have to look at that and go, is it really worth it?
Yeah.
And so anyway, but sleep. And I think the biggest thing that I hear from people, it's being on your device, your phone, your computer, right up to the moment that you go to sleep. Even some people go, well, I get off it an hour before I go to sleep. But they really say it should be, our nighttime should be that we're really winding down now.
Yeah.
Full day.
Yeah.
We want to get it all quiet. It doesn't mean maybe watch a little TV, listen to a little podcast, read a book, whatever happened to that world, and we're calming it all down so that we will sleep better.
Yeah.
I know I'm guilty of it. I get on Instagram, right before I go to bed, and then I'm wired. And I thought I wanted to go to sleep, and now I can't, because the blue light and the stimulation, it's not worth it. It really isn't.
It's not. And again, there's so many studies out right now, especially coming out on new findings, that sleep is associated, or should I say lack of sleep is associated with Alzheimer's.
Yes.
So, something to be very mindful of. We want to make sure that we're getting that good shut eye. We want to, follow circadian rhythm. And when that sun starts going down, we need to start winding down too, and allow our bodies that time to transition over to get that good night's sleep.
And from the few books I've read, each person is different, just like the diet, but it's the important thing is to get, I think it's a block of 5 hours of uninterrupted sleep, so that your brain does this brainwash, and that needs to take place in the whole, different levels of sleeping. Again, I'm not an expert at it, but it makes sense. So that's what I'm always aiming for. Not so much the length of time, though some people need 8 hours. Some people need 9 hours. I see for myself, I can it's about 7 hours. I mean, I'd like 8, but I just seem to wake up. And I'm trusting that now. And wake up, okay, I'm done. And did I get that full 5-6 hour uninterrupted sleep? So I've stopped drinking. Like, I love to always drink kind of, a non-caffeinated tea at night. I've stopped doing that. I've tried to stop off the water a good couple of hours before I go to bed, because I was always getting up in the middle of the night, one time, sometimes two, to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
And that was interrupting that flow of this uninterrupted sleep.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely something for people to be mindful of. I always try to have people do like a whole health journal where they're writing things down, and you can always go back and say, okay, what did I do yesterday that didn't let me sleep well, or did? And you can even go back and see, maybe you have a glass of water every night before you go to bed and it's never been a problem. Now suddenly it is. Well, maybe it was something else, or, it's good to track those things and kind of keep up with what is your body doing, especially, since our bodies change on a daily basis. We need to work in tandem with our body and kind of figure it all out.
Yeah.
Very cool. You talk a lot about nurturing your being, and I know we talked a little bit about that in the very beginning with meditation. What else do you do to nurture?
Spoil myself.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I've kind of always been a little like, I'm putting myself first when it comes to self-care. Even with kids pulling on me, it's like, sorry. So, back then it was all more of the external, getting a massage, going to yoga class, getting a mani-pedi, all these things that I didn't have to do anything. But now sometimes I will meditate twice a day. It's great to do it in the afternoon to have a better evening, or to do it before going to bed, taking that time. I am an avid reader. I go in and out of it, but when I'm in it, it is so enriching. I love to read fiction, and there's nothing like being able to just hang out endlessly with somebody else's story.
Yeah.
And a great book. I think also for me, I've always been into, besides the walking, I've always been into, something. I've done, I was a yogini for 30 years. Then I got into TRX. Then I got into Pilates. Then, so a lot of modalities. I did some Tai Chi, I did some different modalities. I can't think of all of them. I feel like I've done many. So I think that is important, because I think that's about, obviously weight building. A lot of women get into the weight building, and not to buff up their muscles, but to strengthen their muscles.
Right.
As
Right.
lost this muscle tone. That just doesn't resonate with me. And I found it again through going back to Pilates, and really, I had a lot of aches and pains. I had a lot of injury stuff. Years of yoga, a lot of flexibility, throwing myself around, paying the price for it later. And all of that has changed. And I will share with the women that are listening to this, because Pilates work is really about your core and your pelvic floor, and your pelvic region, which is your core. And, I just had my nephew by marriage. They just had their first baby, and a year now. And I was talking to that new mother now, and I'm like, you need to be working the pelvic floor,
Right.
having given birth to that baby. I think we need to come with the manual, and we need to know these things earlier, because we seem to kind of find it out when we're in the middle of it, or even after it, when the damage has been done, and you realize, oh my gosh, nobody tells us these things,
Yeah, right.
And certainly my generation of mother didn't tell me these things. So it's so important. And our ability to feel our core, use our core, have the strength there, changes your alignment, changes how you hold your body, does strengthen that whole pelvic floor. And even if you didn't give birth to children, that is weakening, because with gravity, everything's being pulled down.
I know, right?
And you just got to get that area. You got to be able to feel it. I just saw a podcast recently where some woman was a specialist in this, and she goes, and in this podcast, I'm going to tell you how to identify it and feel it. And it's there.
That's good. So many people don't know how to do it.
Right.
Right.
And it is so important, because now that ties in, because, we as women, we have all these problems with our urinary tract, and can't hold our liquor, whether it's too much water or wine or just food in general. And, you laugh. And so these things can be remedied by taking care and taking responsibility for your own body and your own being.
Right.
And it's doable. Because no, that's not going to get, they got all this, medical stuff that, that women are electing to do to, pull their bladder up. And, and hey, maybe some need that, who knows? But we have more power than we really think we do in terms of being in this. I always look at your body as this temple. We're in it. You are inhabiting it. It's your responsibility to know it, learn it, love it, and take really good care of it.
Absolutely.
So
and it goes back to what you were saying before of loving yourself, because if you take care, or if you love yourself, you're going to take care of yourself. just like your child.
That's right. And you want this temple to be beautiful.
Absolutely.
Whatever size, shape, whoever you are. And why shouldn't it? And strong and serving you
Yes.
to live the life that you want to live.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. So if you could go back in time, back to your 20s and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
What comes to mind is, oh, girl, get off yourself. Be your own best friend. Love you, and when life will be so much more freeing, doesn't it? And it doesn't, in your 20s, you're looking out there for everybody to tell you you're okay.
Right.
You're good enough. And most women say when they get, older, it's like the greatest thing is I just don't care what other people think anymore.
Right.
And I'm not looking for all of that anymore. But I have a daughter who's in her 20s, and I tell her these things, and I see that she can hear it. And of course, she's been raised completely differently than, the time that I was in my 20s. So it's like she can hear it, but then, that brain in there is rolling around in her going, really? I don't know. Because we have to learn really how to love and honor ourselves.
We do. I think, a lot of it is experience, that we go through as we age, that we learn, like you said, we learn about ourselves, we learn about the world. And I think we kind of have to go through a lot of that ourselves.
Yeah. Well, it's what do the Japanese say, I think, or the Chinese, fall down 7 times, get up on the 8th. And that is how.
Yeah.
I can say that for myself. That's how I became the woman I became. I made a lot of mistakes. I fell down a lot of times. And you learn to get back up. And then that's the thing. Can you really learn from it? Sometimes it takes years to really learn what you needed to learn from it.
Yeah.
You always get it right at the moment. You get better at that as you go along.
It's part of the becoming.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Is there, looking back at some of your cookbooks, is there a single recipe in there that is your absolute fave that everybody needs to fix for themselves? I'm having fun going through it, by the way. And while you're looking for your favorite one, I want to read. I love this. A couple of these different ones. Annie Somerville, author of Field and Greens. She wrote, Ann Gentry is a rising star in vegan cuisine. She makes cooking easy, sometimes down home, sometimes exotic, and as only an Angelino can, always very stylish. And I love that about this. And it's one of the things that I have found in my own cooking, because I try to do everything very diversified with my foods, but I always try to make it pretty and stylish. And I'll take pictures of it and I'll send it to my sister-in-law sometimes, and I'm like, it's just almost too pretty to eat.
To answer that question, I think it's and I want you to know I use my cookbooks all the time. I use a lot of other people's cookbooks, and I will say that's my tip about how does one become a good home cook. You use cookbooks. And I'm obsessed. I come back to this. I sort of had to eat it for a couple of years. I call it my super hippie granola. And
oh, it's yummy.
It's crunchy. It's a great snack. And I am obsessed with chia bowls, making my own chia bowls with chia seeds. Not making chia seeds, but using them, making a little, pudding, and using a good quality, unsweetened, high-fat yogurt. And then my granola, and then blueberries and strawberries and raspberries or whatever is in season. So I think that, but I also love soups. And I have some incredible recipes in both of my cookbooks of soups. I think soup's a great thing to always have around, especially in the winter when you need a warming food, talking about seasonal eating. Like when it got super cold here the last couple of days, it's like time for a hearty soup,
Yeah, right. They're so nurturing too.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to say that so this is my first book, the book that you have, Robynn, the Real Food Daily Cookbook, a restaurant, recipes that were made for the home cook. Then I wrote my second book that was sort of a homage to my family at the time. And this book got also put in a paperback form, same book, same recipes. People get a little confused about that because they're both out there on the marketplace. And is it the same? They think it's two separate books, same book. And I wanted to say that they're on my website, anngentry.com. I have a big stash of these books, and I finally realized I need to move them. They're doing me no good sitting in my storeroom. So I'm offering them at a half price of what you would pay at all the, places you could buy online. And I will mail it to you anywhere in the continental US for free, just like all the other online places. And I'll do something no one else can do, which is I'll autograph it for you if that's important.
That is so generous.
What you want me to say. If not, really sweet and beautiful to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I encourage everybody to do that because she's, like I said, I am plant focused. I'm not plant based, but these meals can be incorporated in with everything. And you can even take, some shrimp or meat or anything else and throw it in with some of these different foods. And these are amazing. And I think, sometimes we just get so lost in the monotony of our meals. And, like I said, I try to eat with a lot of diversity and a lot of different foods. And sometimes you just need to pick up some ideas. And the pictures that you have in here of some of the different foods, I mean, just that opening picture, look how good that looks, y'all. So I encourage it. I definitely encourage you to do that. Ann, is there any parting thoughts you want to give for people?
Well, I want to give one more pitch.
Okay.
Because these books are vegan. And as I said, I segued into not being exclusively vegan, but plant-based and bringing in other foods into the realm. So I was helping some other women, and I put together this little guide, Eating for Brain Health, 15 Foods for Longevity. They're not recipes, but it's a guideline of what are the areas that you really want to be focusing on, like from vice to nice. Yes, dark chocolate is a part of it,
Absolutely.
And anyway, so I will throw that in. If you'd like to buy one of my books now or soon, you let me know that you heard me here through Robynn, and then I'll just make a copy of this. It's beautiful, a lot of nice photos of the food, and I'll include that.
That's awesome.
Gratis, gift for you. Yes.
That's awesome. There you go. You guys make sure that you mention that you saw this or heard this on this podcast, and we'll throw in that extra tidbit with the top foods for your brain, because we really need to do that. We need to pay attention to our brain. So, Ann, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation today. I love your different strategies for navigating life and health and everything that you've shared with our listeners. And I'm hoping that you guys, all of our listeners, will be able to take one or two or even all of what Anna said and apply it to your life. And if you want to find out more about Ann or grab up one of her cookbooks, you can visit her website at anngentry.com, ANNGENTRY.com, or keep up with everything she's doing on Instagram, which is her handle is Age Like a Goddess. And if you want to catch up with me, you can find me all over social media at Robynn Lynn, ROBYNNLIN, which is also my website, robynlynn.com. And all of these links, you can find them listed in the podcast notes. Thank you guys, all of you, for being here with us today. I hope you'll join me next time here on Becoming Ageless as we uncover new tips, tricks, actions, and science to increase your whole health span. Stay ageless, y'all.